Welcome to episode 9 of Connecting Clarkston. Today we are here talking with the Doshi Candle Company and Josh Zawadzki and Don Upton. Got that right?
Yes,
Got that right.
just like it sounds.
Yeah, just like it sounds. Just sound it out. We're very excited to have you guys here and chat with you and learn about your company and how it all started and all things relating to Clarkston, as ours is obviously called Connecting Clarkston. But first of all, welcome and thanks for taking time out of your day to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Is the store closed right now, or is somebody else manning the store?
No, it's locked right now.
It's locked.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
man.
locked up.
We won't take too much of your time then.
Oh,
These
you're
are
fine,
dollars
yes.
out the window.
Yeah.
So we'd like to start with, what is your connection to Clarkston? Where do you guys, are you from here? Are you?
Yep. So I live in Davisburg, but I went to Clarkston schools. We live right on the border of like the Holly-Clarkston area. So I went to elementary over in Springfield Plains, and then went to Clarkston High School. Played some sports and all that fun stuff.
Okay. What sports
and
did
just,
you play?
Played soccer since 4th grade,
Okay.
year round, so that was fun. Met a lot of people through that.
Yeah.
But then I ran track in the springtime, so
Nice.
stayed busy.
Yeah. And so you graduated you were just talking about this in
2015.
2015.
Yep.
And you've stayed around.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. I've always found my way back here somehow.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Nice.
Yeah.
Don, are you from here?
Nope, I actually grew up in Troy.
Okay.
I actually went to Brother Rice and then recently moved here. I was in Oxford for about 2 years
Okay.
and then moved here closer to the shop. It's a very long drive down Seymour Lake Road. It seems to be the only route there, but no, I love it out here. So this is where I'm going to stay.
Nice. Well, we're glad you found your way here.
Yeah.
So I am very curious where the name Doshi came from, and I wonder if you could explain that first for us. Whoever wants to.
Not a lot of thought went into it.
yeah. Definitely lots of planning for sure. No. Just came up with something unique that pertained to us. So it is our names together. So it's Don for the D-O and Josh is the S-H, and then a Roman numeral 1 for the candle company.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Doshi.
I think we spent about 10 minutes.
Yeah. It has a nice ring to it, though.
Yeah.
It does. It all kind of worked out. When we originally sat down at my kitchen table with a notebook and hammered out our business plan. And it was the name and the logo, I think were the first two things that we looked at. So we still have the notebook.
Yeah.
All of
Yeah.
our original sketches and
See?
everything, our ideas.
So how do you guys even know each other? Like,
Yeah, let's
where
talk about
where do your paths cross?
Yes. So when I was in undergrad, I went through EMS Academy at OCC in 2017 it was, because I wanted to get into med school. I was in pre-med, and the EMTs, more hours and more experience than CNAs and scribes and everything else from what all the schools were telling us. And so I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. It might be an interesting area of experience for sure, no doubt. So I went through the academy and then started EMS in Pontiac. Of course, it was hiring because they needed people. And they were one of the rotations as well when we did our clinical work. So that was kind of nice. Familiar faces with that. So I just picked up, and they were very lenient on the schedule for those that went to school. So I'm like, okay, this fits perfectly for my schedule for now. So I'd come home and I'd work on the weekends and during holidays. So I would just pick up shifts.
Where were you going to school?
I went to school at Central Michigan.
Central. Okay.
Yep. So did the 4-year undergrad program there. And then, so I was picking up shifts, and then I'd always ask questions about different heart rhythms or different things you can and cannot do working EMS versus other settings like hospital or offices. And just ended up starting talking to Don because he was one of the wealth of knowledge there. Absolutely.
Yeah. How long had you been in EMT? How long have you been, I guess?
I'm aging myself, but I think I got my first level licensure 30 years ago.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
So I'm currently licensed as a paramedic.
I want to know the distinction between EMS, EMT, paramedic. Okay, give
So
us
we're
a
all
rundown.
EMTs. It's all emergency medical technician, and the designation between the basic and the paramedic is basically your level of care. So I can do the medications, defibrillation and intubations, things like that. That's really the only distinction. Because people would say, "Oh, you're an EMT or you're a paramedic," and it's like, no, we're all EMTs. It's just a different scope of practice. That's all. So, and that's exactly how we met. We picked up our shift together, and we weren't even talking about a business at that point. And he had been doing a fundraiser for school, and it was a candle company up in that area. I won't name them for obvious reasons. But I bought a couple. Said, yeah, I'll help out, and I didn't know his connection, if he had a connection to the company or not, because they weren't that good. I wasn't that impressed, and I didn't know to tell him. Dude, I can't burn this candle anymore. It's had this soot ring around it. It tunneled down the middle. It barely smelled.
Yeah.
And that's somehow this kind of that interaction, as we started picking up more shifts together, just kind of morphed. We had talked about, we'd both eventually like to own our own business, and it wasn't specifically a candle company at all. And then all of a sudden, it was this. Well, why don't we do candles? How hard could this be?
Famous last words.
Famous last words.
That's right. Yep.
Well,
Yep.
fantastic. And tell us about, I'm just looking at this, the logo. Is this a logo? You said you had the name in the logo?
Yep. So
Up
our
top here.
whole idea behind the company in general is something that's small batch, local, hand poured, something that is elegant but simple. And so that was our mindset with creating the logo and everything. So that's what we tried to do. And so between the black and the gold coloring, more of that elegance and all of that. But yeah, something just clean cut and that
Yeah.
resembled our company. Just seemed interesting.
Nice.
And something different.
Yeah.
It was everyone. If you look at the history of candles, especially in the U.S., it was paraffin.
Yeah.
Well, it was originally whale blubber, but we started finding, as we looked into, we started finding out these dirty secrets of the candle companies, what they were doing, what cost-cutting or cost-saving measures they were doing. They were adding in additives. They were
Like what, for example?
so phthalates would be a big one. You'll see a lot of candles now are advertised as phthalate-free. That's something that the plastic industry uses to help make plastic flexible, is primarily what it's used for. Scent enhancers,
Okay.
things
And
like
then
that.
toxic, I'm assuming, some of these things?
So the phthalates are on the list. We have the California Prop 65 list, if you're familiar with that. That is a list of about 900 chemicals. It's about 23 pages long of different chemicals known in the state of California to cause reproductive harm, things like that. And we cross-reference everything against that list, so to make sure they don't go in our candles, but more so to help educate the consumer so they can make an educated decision, because they were the candle industry in the U.S. is they're selling these candles in such quantities. Did you know that the U.S. didn't actually formally outlaw lead wicks until 2003?
2003.
Wow.
Yep.
That's crazy.
So they had the majority of the candle manufacturers had voluntarily stopped around the mid 70s. They started realizing, hey, lead's around kids. This isn't good. But then they found that a lot of the candles being imported still contain lead wicks. So yeah, it took a long time. So that was the other the driving force behind ours. Is okay, instead of waiting for whatever legislation or whatever to come out, let's just go ahead. We'll take the preemptive strike. let's just start, because we didn't know anything about candles. So
Okay.
mind you,
Zero.
okay? So let's just start
That
and
sounds like a big jump
Yeah,
to not
it
know
kind of
anything
is.
about it. Yeah.
to say, here in our notebook, what do we want? We want clean burning. We don't want it to tunnel. We don't want mushrooming wicks. We don't want soot rings. This is what we don't want, and that's how we started. And
That's interesting. I think I was telling my son about you guys coming on. I said they're EMTs and they made this candle company. He said, his assumption was, they were making a safe candle so there's less fires. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense to me, but it's so much bigger. I had no idea so much thought went into it. And
So
that's
what
pretty
are your
impressive.
candles made out of?
Yeah.
They are made of 100% palm wax, and so it comes from the fruit of the palm tree. Obviously, there's not many palm trees in the U.S., so
Yeah.
it's sourced internationally as well. But there's a few suppliers that we get purchase the wax from in the U.S., so that was our main thing.
Are soy candles a big thing right now? Is soy like a,
Yeah, what's the difference?
yeah.
Like what,
Why did you decide to go with palm as opposed to soy?
So looking at it, almost all of the craft candles companies out there that are saying, yep, 100% clean, soy candles, pure, they're all doing it. So what's different?
Yeah.
It's just a
Yeah.
soy candle, and if you color the soy, it's all just going to be the pastel color. So how do you get something that's gonna be vibrant, that catches the customer eye? Like, oh, here's this pastel color. Oh, wow, that color pops. I like that one.
Yeah.
And so the palm wax, it is more dense wax, has a higher melting point,
Okay.
and when it cools, it gives you the crystal structure. So it's aesthetically pleasing as well.
Is it a slower burning candle than soy?
So
Or
that's where the
comparable.
science comes in.
Okay.
So we have to use 3 wicks in this kind of a jar here, the circle jar, to get the even melt pool all the way across. But we still get about 60 hours out of that candle.
Oh my gosh.
6-0.
I just bought a soy candle recently and it burned so fast. It was just a single wick candle, but 60 hours is,
Yeah.
that's pretty
nuts.
great.
Yeah, and some soy candles, they've made it that they're able to get a good amount of time out of them.
Okay.
But,
you actually have to match the wick to your candle.
Okay.
What do you mean, the amount of wicks?
There are
Or-
different materials that we use 100% cotton with a paper core for the rigidity. Because now when they replace lead with zinc to add that structural rigidity to the wick. So if they are the wrong size, it will pull up too much fuel. You'll get more of a soot production. You get that mushroom at the
Okay.
end that ends up in those little wick bits down in the bottom of your
Yeah.
candles.
Yeah.
Because they melt like, well, kind of what we thought candle making was when we started was just melt wax, drop a wick, and we'll make millions.
Exactly.
So,
It's that easy. Right?
Yeah. So tell us about the other ingredients. So, because I know they have scent, they have color. What else is in here?
I mean, that's pretty much it.
What
It's
gives
just-
it the color then?
It's the dyes that we put in.
Okay.
And so we have to just kind of, through R&D process, kind of mess around with the colors, see how they turn out. If we put a little bit more, or a lot of scent in the jars. So we have that nice wide range of coloring that we're able to do.
So do you guys actually are you making them at your store?
Yes.
You do?
Yep.
Okay.
So we purchase all the raw materials, the lids, the jars, the wicks, oils, scents, dyes,
Okay.
all of the little pieces that make it up.
Okay.
And then we pour ourselves. Yep.
You do? Is it just you two, or do you have a
Nope,
staff? Just this is
it's
it?
us
Okay.
too.
it's just us.
And you're still
Fantastic.
EMTing?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
working full time,
Yeah.
going to school as well.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh. And you're still on the road to being a doctor? Is this still part of the plan?
Yeah, so my whole thing with the undergrad is I wanted to take some time before pursuing med school and expand, I guess, my learning curve, or just more things to make myself more marketable in the marketplace. Because you go to school, you get your bachelor's degree, and then you're sitting on a bachelor's degree for a year trying to
Yeah.
get a good job. So I'm like, well, I'll just start taking business classes, because we had talked about starting a business. I'm like, oh, I'll just take a few classes at OCC. So that's why I started doing it. I'm like, oh, while I'm at it, they're the same as a master, so I'll just do my MBA. Why not?
That's so great.
So
It made sense when he said it. Believe it or not, it made perfect sense.
yeah, and it still kind of does because I've altered my course a little bit. Now I'm pursuing nursing. So nursing, you can still get into administration. You can become a nurse anesthetist, or you can become a nurse practitioner. So now I'm just reorienting myself. So, but it was nice to take those business classes, all of that, and see it firsthand in our business. It's been amazing.
It's fantastic.
Yep.
And you guys have a storefront. Tell us where that is and tell us about that and how it's going.
We are at 9230 Dixie Highway, so we're right kind of up the road from here.
Give me, because
it's-
I, for some reason, always pictured you guys, like I was looking on the wrong part of Dixie. What are you close to? Like, what are other stores?
Bordines and Davisburg Road.
Okay.
So
Yep, I was
that's-
in the wrong location.
That's kind of
Okay.
Okay.
It's the easiest because we use Bordines all the time as
Yes,
our
that
landmarks.
helps.
Just go past Bordines and you'll see our signs.
And you're on the same side as Bordines? Or
Yes.
You are, okay.
Not quite to Dixie Lake, though.
No.
Okay,
no,
not by that Lazy Dog or Yellow Dog?
Just south.
Yellow
We're
Dog,
just
no,
south
not
of
that
Yellow
far.
Dog.
And then do you
Okay.
sell your candles anywhere else? Are you in like other stores or it's just your storefront?
Yellow Dog, as a matter of fact,
Okay.
is one of the stores.
Yes.
Essence on Main,
Okay.
right downtown. Then we also have an online presence. We have also an inventory at the store.
Okay.
In case somebody wants to come by, they can order it. They can do local pickup. They can come in, take a look around, see how we do things. And we are working right now on opening our Amazon storefront.
So do you have regular hours that people can come and shop, or is it basically order and then pick up?
No, right now it's basically our production area as opposed to a retail space. So when we started, we moved from my kitchen table to my basement. Then it kind of took over the entire second half
Yeah.
of my living space.
Yeah.
We actually, because I had 2 bathrooms, so actually the second bathtub was full of 55-pound bags of wax.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
The shipping table was in the living room, so it was like, okay, we're growing. We really need to, to look for a spot. But we had been watching what has been going on with these other. When you have businesses that have specifically one product, like candles, you have to specifically go to this shop wanting a candle.
Sure.
And we saw what was happening with the industry post-COVID, and they were closing the stores down. And it was like, let's not, right now,
Yeah.
go all out. Really, all we need is just a bigger manufacturing area. So that's what we decided. And plus, it would give us the opportunity to go ahead and do the other things that we want to do, and kind of come up with some kind of a work-life balance.
That was a big question I had. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just the two of you running a store, making the candles, saving lives. This is a lot. But that makes a lot of sense.
We also have to keep in mind that as we got more familiar with what we were doing, we became more efficient.
Yes.
Of course.
So it still takes us about 24 hours from start to finish. So with these specific candles, they have to do a 12-hour cooling period.
Okay.
There's no way around that. And then we have to label and trim the way and all that other stuff that comes with it. But it's what. And I don't want to say cut corners, but what extra steps don't we need? What can we do? And
More efficient.
we're constantly trying new ideas to see and exactly, because we don't want to get into this mass manufacturing. With the machine, we like the hand poured, the traditional concept.
So are you guys, when you think about as you get bigger, I know you don't want to be humongous or you don't want to go mass production, but
Well, we do, but
you do want to get bigger.
Someday, eventually.
I'd be lying if I
Would
said
you consider candle making classes as part of your
Absolutely.
portfolio?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So when we were starting out, we were thinking of all these different ideas, like how could we bring people to it? Because you hear about the candle making kits, or let's go have candles and like food or something. So we're like, wine and candles, what could be better?
Yeah, exactly.
well, they do that with painting.
Like paint,
Yeah.
that's what I was
Right.
thinking
Yeah.
of.
So I said, well, why
Yeah.
not wine and
Yeah.
wicks? or
Yeah.
something like that. So
There's a candle making class at the farm. Isn't that candle making or is it soap making?
Soap.
Oh, soap. Okay.
Same,
Same
waxy.
concept.
Yeah.
I think people would really
Yeah.
enjoy that process.
Yeah.
But you said it takes 12 hours or 24 hours to make a batch.
from start to finish. So when collecting all of our raw materials together, and we're starting with an empty jar, so that includes wicking them, coming up. We have to mix the scent in, melt the wax, to make sure the wax is up to temperature. That wax, for some reason, we picked the hardest wax to work with.
So then it turns out like it
Out of the
does.
tube.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. You
yeah.
need this like marbling or whatever you want to call
Yep.
it. This
It looks like
Correct.
iridescent
Yeah.
glitter. It's really pretty.
That's very cool. So how many, I mean, this may not be a true thing, but I'm picturing some broken glass along the way. Like, is there some temperature point where it's like, and it explodes? And
Well, the jars don't like direct heat like a hot plate. We figured that out.
Trial and
through
error.
our,
Yes, that was a trial and error.
through our R&D experience, and then trying to quickly melt wax so we can go to work like in a few hours. Like, oh, all right, let's break the wax in the melting pot. Well, wax is pretty hot, and we get it on our hands.
oh, geez.
Yeah, it's all over the floor. And everyone. We had our research and develop. I think we spent about 3 months, 4 months,
About a good-
almost.
at least,
and
yeah.
we just had we kept pictures. We photographed like every step of the way and document our little adventure here. And there's a picture that we just looked at again the other day when we were trying to select the wicks, and we just literally have dozens of candles, each one with a sticky note with a different wick in it, because you have to pick the right wick. So we wanted to test burn all of them, and then when we come up with their duration, we do what's called an abuse burn. So we have 2 candles set side by side. We let one go straight through. So we don't blow it out till it goes out, and then we do the other one about 2-hour increments, and then we come up with the average.
So
to
for this
see.
size, you said it was 60 hours?
About 56
to 60
to
hours.
60. Yeah.
And how many different size candles do you currently have?
Well, we have some square jars remaining, which I believe those were the 10-ounce candles. And then we've changed our glassware 3 times because of supply chain.
Yeah. Oh,
That ended up hitting the industry pretty big there. And now we are at these jars, which I think these are 14-ounce.
Yeah, and our
14
new
ounce.
ones that are coming out are 14 point or 15.5. So we're adding on. So we're not getting rid of these. We're expanding our line. We learned valuable lessons during when we started. We started March 18th of 2020. So
good
we were right
timing.
before the pandemic.
Right.
And boy, let me tell you,
What a trip.
it was an interesting time to start a company.
Yeah.
And I remember we were still looking for the items we needed just to get started, and that's when a lot of the big box stores, you couldn't buy a lot of stuff. There was barrier tape up everywhere, and I remember sneaking under the barrier tape because we needed a tarp, And I was sure I was going to get arrested or some crazy thing. but-
Escorted
Seemed
out of
worth
the
it.
store.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that was not our original design. So we literally overnight lost the supply, our supply of our original glassware.
Wow.
So we had to scramble and find another supplier. Libby, being one of the major manufacturers, Libby Glass, the other one being Anchor Hocking. Libby ended up declaring bankruptcy. They ended up shutting down their Shreveport, Louisiana production warehouse. So it's like having one of your limbs cut off overnight. And we wanted to stay local or within the U.S. We found a place out on the East Coast that had this design.
Yeah.
So
Did you guys have to drive and pick them up?
Yep.
Or, yes. Okay. I'm like, this
Shipping
sounds so
is
familiar to me, and I think it's your story.
Yep.
So I, like years ago, think that I saw you guys pop up, and I don't know if it was in the paper or where it was, but I thought, oh, that's like so interesting. And then I think I never heard anything. Like, I didn't know how to find you or where you were. But I guess probably COVID was part of that.
Everyone went under.
Right.
Yeah.
We started off doing the farmers markets.
Okay.
So we were actually between Canterbury Village. We did the Clarkston Farmers Market, did the Holly Market, and we were going 7 days a week
Yeah.
because we were still working. We did the dual markets on Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
So there was no time off at all, and then even just the logistics of driving, just to save on shipping.
Yeah.
It's cheaper for us to drive.
That's nuts. All the way to the East Coast, it's cheaper?
Yes.
Significantly. So,
Yes. So
just as an example, these new jars we bought, we're like, okay, well, the lids we can pick up in Ohio, out in the glassware's out east. Well, we can stop by on the way, pick up everything.
stop by on the way,
So
by
it's-
way of Maryland. That was a 26-hour round trip.
Yep.
Jeez.
And still cheaper than shipping.
It's still
Yeah.
cheaper.
Yeah. So we
nuts.
saved about $700 just on that trip and shipping.
Wow.
And that's part of the thing about being a small business and just starting up is we're not afforded. We do get some wholesale pricing, but we don't have tractor trailers coming in bringing us pallets of raw materials. So we started off getting just as much as we needed, and then we learned, boy, we needed to really start hoarding this stuff.
Yeah.
So we started ordering like half pallets, and I think our last glass order we actually ended up ordering a full pallet of glass.
Right, and you meet those minimums, right, to get those discounts. And
Correct.
Yep.
That's
Correct.
tough if you don't have the space to store it in. First of all, if it's in your
Yep.
kitchen, I mean,
And bathtubs and
where are you going to put all that stuff?
And how does so when you're ordering your glass, do you have it printed, or when does
No, we do all our labeling in-house.
you do all your labeling? So do you do any kind of like special logo labeling for businesses? Is that something you
Absolutely.
do or that you could do? Okay.
Yeah, so that's something that we had talked about. I was like, well, we can easily, if we do all this in-house, we can edit the labels, we can edit the lids. We just get the company's logo and put it into the computer. There it is.
Yeah.
That's a
And then-
great
So we
idea.
can
I
print.
know I was mentioning Shelly Kovac, who's
Yeah.
the one who had mentioned we should talk to you guys, but she was saying she loves to give your candles as like Christmas gifts, as when people buy houses. So that's
When
pretty
people start a
awesome.
podcast,
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe
right.
we
Yeah.
should get one, I think.
Well, we could leave that here.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
So-
Yeah.
Well, tell us about, because when we were talking before we started filming, I was telling Katie, I'm like, I can't read what the heck this says because
yeah.
it's in Latin. Can you talk about why the labels are in Latin, or just kind of
Yeah.
what people are going to expect to see?
Yeah, so the whole inception of our company, we're like, well, again, what is going to make us different? Are we just going to say, oh, Ocean Breeze candle, just like everything else on the shelf, every other kind of candle company elsewhere, even crafters are like, oh, Ocean Breeze, Ocean Mist.
It's like Vermont winter,
Right.
it's
Yeah. Well, generic.
Yeah. And so we're like, well, what's different? Let's do Latin. I don't know how that came up, but we're just like,
Right.
well, that's different.
And we don't know Latin, which makes it
yeah.
funnier because
Yep.
I'm sure that it is way off.
We don't even know what it says.
Well, we do know what it says, but we're not. I'm sure the genders are wrong and everything else that goes along with Latin. But it's funny because on some of them, like our Macintosh apple candle, for example, I think that literally translates to hand globe harvest.
Does it really?
A friend of mine got a tattoo once in a different language, and later on he learned that, like, whatever, it was supposed to say it didn't.
Oops.
I feel like, I'm like, who cares? I mean, it's
It says
great.
carpe diem or something.
Yeah.
All right.
And then the graphics, like the pyramids. So do you guys just choose these? This is what you feel that should be representing the candle?
Yeah,
or what?
and that's exactly what it is. So we make the name of the candle. So this one is Egyptialusum, Egyptian light is what it translates to.
Sounds like you know
per
Latin.
Google Latin.
That sounded really good. Okay.
And so based on this scent, we're like, oh, all right, what does it smell like? What does it make you think of? And also the note profile. It's sandalwood with amber and patchouli. And so Egyptian light, all right, let's do a pyramid. And so then we match the color to that scent profile as well.
That's cool. You get really creative with this stuff.
Yeah, we try to the marketing side of it,
Yeah.
all the presentation,
Yeah.
definitely has a lot of thought going into it.
How many scents do you have, or does it rotate?
It rotates.
work?
Yep.
Okay.
So we try to have, I think this past year we've had 18 or 20
Okay.
at one time. And we do rotate at least 2 or 3 scents seasonally.
Okay.
So the core is probably made up of like anywhere from like 15 or more.
Yeah. Okay.
18. And as
18, yeah.
we kind of found that as we came out with new scents, because we're constantly tracking, which ones are the popular ones. Let's do 2 batches of this one. We have a market going up. We probably should do X amount, and then we can see the consumer their taste change. So we, like Josh said, we come up with like our summer scents. We come up with fall scents. We have holiday scents coming. So to try to match that.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
On your website, is there pricing information, ordering information, all of that's there? Okay.
Yep.
And don't you have a recycling program of some sort?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's another thing is with being small business and like how can you reuse their materials, instead of just purchasing more. Sometimes we weren't able to purchase more. Like Don said, we lost our original jars overnight. So it's like, we had a bunch left over from our recycling program that we were able to use, fortunately enough. So the customer, once they purchase their candle, they finish it up. When they return the jar and lid, they get the $3 off towards their purchase.
Nice.
So that way, it's a way to reuse the materials instead of throwing it out. Or if they don't reuse it themselves, there's a discount for bringing it back and not throwing it out.
Yeah. And then how do you handle them when they come through again? Like, is it a pretty arduous process to clean them out and reuse them?
Well,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
it is.
Everything is designed not to come out of that jar. So
Yep.
But it must be worth it. I mean, you're reusing, and that's,
Well,
admirable.
it's a lot of people like the design, and a lot of people, we actually, when we first started, we thought we were doing something wrong. The glass wasn't coming back, and people were like, no, we're repurposing it. Like, we like that style, so they put Q-tips in it or something, so,
yeah.
which is great, repurpose, upcycle, whatever. But just having that option in there, and it also helps us because we have we have a laser engraver in house. That's where we do our lids, and we can that way we can customize our graphics and everything. But if we get that lid back on a recycle, then that's less time on the laser engraver for us. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
What did your coworkers say when you guys
Yeah.
were like, hey, guess what? We're going into business together.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny because our new coworkers are very supportive
Okay.
of it. It's just kind of one of those things when you say that you're going out and starting a business. They're like, okay,
Yeah.
good luck. It's like you
Here
really
you are
have
years
to.
later, still
right?
doing
No,
it. Yeah.
exactly. Because it's you just hear it so many times, and you want to be supportive. I get it.
Yeah.
But really, it's when you tend to get more support from outside. I mean, of course, and you have your close friends and family that are going to be there,
Yeah.
for you. But it's I probably have. I think between the two of us, I think we've sold more candles outside of the company we
Yeah.
used to work for than
Okay.
than
Yeah.
when we were there. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I would definitely say so.
Yeah. How was your business been received in the community locally? Like, since you started your brick and mortar, well, I know it's not your shop, but since you've had this Independence Township address, have you been connected with other businesses and the Chamber of Commerce and that kind of stuff? How is
Yep,
that
we're
going?
we're members of the chamber, and going out and meeting the store owners, Emma and Yellow Dog.
Wait, you're
We were
at
just talking
Essence
about this.
Yeah.
And where else?
Yellow Dog.
Yellow Dog.
Yellow Dog.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you. And we didn't want to saturate the area and just go store to store to store because we didn't want them competing
Yeah.
with each other. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So we wanted to put some distance in between. But getting out and meeting the other business owners in the community, and it's been an amazing insight talking to other business owners and, sharing your experiences and going to a lot of these. We just had that Women in Business chamber event.
That was back in May
Oh, yeah.
at that
That
was
we
at the
went to.
Holly Vault or Venue 111.
Yeah.
And that was awesome, just going there and having a few hours to sit there and talk to everyone. And we were able to explain our candle, and same idea. We had our table set up, and they had to stop by. Oh, what does this mean? Well, now that you're
Yeah, it's a
asking
good
us,
story.
Right.
Good conversation
Yeah.
starter.
So
Yeah.
it was great to see the business owners there, and even when we were eating, it's like we were just sitting there talking to other business owners. So a lot of that has helped for sure, along with just the holiday markets in general, beyond Clarkston. So then we're like, oh hey, there's all these other companies in Clarkston that are pretty cool too. Here, check them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're advertised on our website, so you can say where to find us. And we have our store, and then we actually have their storefronts and their addresses and contact
Nice.
information. So kind of to help steer traffic
Right.
their way as well. So it's. I remember when we first started our very first market, we had it was a 6-foot table. We just bought a pop-up tent. We didn't have any displays.
The tablecloth was only
I got the wrong size tablecloth, so it was
so
just kind of
covered
stuck
like
in the middle of this
2/3 of
white
the table.
plastic table. And I think at that time we only had 8 cents.
We did,
And
yep.
It was awful.
We only had, like
I
one
think
bin.
one person stopped by and looked, and it actually, it was the manager of the market who thought we were charging too much. No one was going to buy our candles.
Oh, no.
But we were thinking, like, wow, I can't even tell you the number of times we sat there and what the heck are we doing? And,
Yeah.
and then it started. We started getting the feedback, from the community, and saying we love
Started
your
getting those
candles,
return
and
customers.
Yeah.
It's
What year did you start? Maybe you said this.
2020.
2020. Yeah, you said that.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we started the Clarkston Farmers Market in the end of July.
Did you guys do it this year?
Not this year.
Okay.
Nope. No.
Okay.
Yeah, because we opened up the store. I keep saying storefront production facility, and that's taken up a lot of our time. So we've actually, after we're done here, going up there to install our second melter. So we're expanding. We're building our own shelving and everything in there. So
Yep.
it's we wanted to focus our attention elsewhere. So we're still doing the markets, and I think we still signed up for the Clarkston Family Farm for the Christmas show we do every year.
Yep.
Nice.
So that's trying to track Chelsea down and hold her still for 5 minutes.
Yes.
I love you, Chelsea.
We love you, Chelsea. She was on. We were chit-chatting with her
Yeah.
recently. She's great. But yeah, she's a busy lady. She's got a lot
Very
going on.
incredible.
So we'd really like to. We tossed around the idea of doing something with the farm. There's a lot of history behind candle making, and we could put on leather aprons and go put on a
Yeah.
beeswax class.
Well, that's what
Totally.
was just, because they're doing a soap making class. I think anything that's family oriented and yeah.
Well, I was thinking about, when you go to like Henry Ford or up in Huckleberry Railroad, and they do they're dressed in like 1800s period costumes. Not that you have to
Yeah.
do that, but they do the whole, or maybe you can.
Might
I
be
don't know.
fun.
The whole.
We already looked at
They
the.
are
Yeah.
open to
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
The candle making, you can dip your hand in and do all that stuff, like that really
Mm-hmm.
experiential part of it, which kids and adults I think really love. So if there's ever a
They sure
time
would.
to,
Renaissance Festival. that
oh
hand
yes,
dip, yeah.
exactly. There's a lot of, I think people do love candles. Like it's the process of making them is pretty interesting. So it'll be interesting to see how you guys expand and what happens next. But I'm curious if you guys when you're getting into Amazon, you said that's happening soon.
Yes.
Yep. So when we were looking at different platforms to sell on, originally we were like, all right, well, let's take a look at Etsy and all the crafters on there, but the rates were higher than we wanted compared to Square or GoDaddy. So we have settled with GoDaddy. And Amazon was even high at the time too, because they didn't have the small business, the handmade storefront. So they were taking a huge chunk of your profits on top of you trying to like support your own business.
Yeah.
So now we're revisiting it, and it's
And especially starting up.
yeah,
Because we funded that ourselves.
Yeah.
So that came out of our pockets. We don't have any outstanding loans. So that we turned that to now where it's self-supporting.
Yeah.
So
Very nice.
and enough to be able to actually build
Invest and
build a little
grow.
bit bigger.
Right.
We have new lines coming out,
Okay.
new glass designs coming out. We have reed diffusers coming out. So
Ah, very
all those we
cool.
just finished the testing on them.
Okay.
So when you think about hiring people, will it be other EMTs and just kind of keep it all in the family? What's the plan here?
well, some of the cheapest labor is family members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that too. I think your sister will work for free.
Right. Give her a few candles.
Yeah, my parents live locally too, so I've been slowly showing my dad how to do things as well, and he's helped out a little bit. But
Yeah.
it would be nice to hire local people,
Yeah.
just as a way to like invest in the community
Yep.
and expand that knowledge base.
Is there some kind of meditative quality to making candles? I picture it being pretty
Relaxing.
like relaxing, but it's maybe not at your scale. But for me, it seems like, oh, how nice.
Well,
They're
kind of
making
picture
candles.
Phantom of the Opera.
I can tell our shop smells amazing.
I bet.
So it's you can't describe it. You have to kind of experience it because when we do we'll do a multiple run of 12 batches. 12 candles each batch, and we'll do 6 or 7 runs.
Yep.
And at the end of the night, the smells are just incredible.
Yeah.
So we're kind of lucky on that we get to we
Yeah.
get to experience that.
But
But
you have happy neighbors.
yes, so
No one's complaining about that.
complaints. No
Nope.
complaints.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So what event is coming up next for you guys where people could find you and chat with you about your business?
We are finishing up looking at the fall markets now, so that would be the next step that we will be announcing on our website, on our social medias.
Okay.
I know St. Dan's has one of the Catholic churches here has a fall market that they just announced. They're looking for crafters, so
I
that'd
think
be
there's
nice.
one at the high school here too.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
Christmas market.
Okay.
And we've got Christmas designs coming.
Oh,
So
nice. Yes.
it's we've had this kind of in the back of our heads for a while, but have always like, oh look, it's already September.
Right.
Yeah,
so
here
we are,
let's
yeah.
Trying
let's
to get ahead of the
trying
game.
to get started a little earlier on this. And really in the candle world, the sales are at the holidays.
Yeah.
They make great gifts, and
Yeah.
so that's really when we see our sales increase, our production numbers, which is fine when you're first starting out. When we had that, you have that January, the credit card shock, after the holidays, and that happens for all retailers.
Yeah.
But we kind of learned that, hey, this is the perfect time to do all of our research and development during those slower months.
Yeah.
Smart.
And so then we're ready to go. For when we enter the holiday season at the end of the year, we'll be ready with our inventory all stocked. And because you had mentioned how relaxing it is, and
Right.
I can't tell you how relaxing it's not when you've been up already all day, and now you have to be up all night because you have a market to do the next day, and you forgot to do one of the batches that need to go out.
Oops.
So
we
yeah, we had a lot
this
of
candle.
all-nighters.
Yeah.
So
So do you each have a favorite scent that you can reveal?
Well, we like them all, or else we wouldn't sell
Right.
them.
Right?
Yeah. But I know mine stems for sure from the original 8 cents. It's our Tenebris Mar candle in the dark waters. It's the sea salt with citrus and musk. So you get that nice clean, the deeper earth tone. That's definitely one of my favorites.
Okay. What are the 8? You said the 8 basic scents. Can
The
you?
original.
Yeah, so the
original?
originals, this is one of them, the Egyptialusum. And then it was our orchid and sea salt, our honeysuckle jasmine, our sesame, which was just our freshwaters candle, our mentha aquatica, which is citrus mint eucalyptus. And then we had teakwood and spice, a spiced honey, and then was that 8?
that was Yeah, because the apple didn't come
Apple
till.
didn't come till
So
later.
apple was
Yep.
that was our fall limited release, and we make a certain batch like this number. Once it's gone, it's gone. You know, so we don't have to carry this inventory, you know, over the next 12 months. But we had sold out in November, and then we were still doing markets, and it's like, hey, do you have any of those apple candles? Like, well, that was the fall release. Oh, no, I want apple candles. So it kind of became now a regular part of our line.
Okay.
But I think that would have made that was number
That was number 9
on that one. So.
Yep, between that and the pumpkin.
And the pumpkin,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Which one is your favorite?
Yeah, the Tenebris.
This one right
By
here?
far, no, the blue one that Josh had talked about.
Oh, you both like the same?
Well, so we don't have gender specific candles, so we
Okay.
don't have. But that one, it's just I just like it personally,
Okay.
and because we found when everyone was home office during COVID, you know, we're like, oh, we got to have some masculine scents, like our teak wood and spice. I mean, that's, you know, woodsy, or we have like the sandalwood, or we have a white birch that, you know, really woodsy. And we had guys just buying, oh, I really like the sea salt and orchid, and it's like, great, you know, how many you want? Buy 5, get 1 free.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Nice.
it's when we come up with the scents, we have hundreds of scent samples that we go through,
Okay.
and we're constantly bringing them in, and we're mixing them, and we're doing our own concoctions, and it doesn't pass our sniff tests, then it's
That's
not going to go into a candle.
That
but
could have been
the-
rough
the-
during COVID when people lost their sense of smell. That
That's
could have been rough.
why it's a visually appealing candle.
Yeah, right.
Which is
Trust
kind of
us, it
funny you
smells
mention that, because the one of the biggest complaints of scented candles is you can't smell it. You know, so you have what you call the cold throw and a hot throw. So what does it smell like when it's not lit? What does it smell like when it's lit? And ours smells both ways. So you can actually take the lid off and stick it in your bathroom, and it will fill the room.
Awesome.
That candle right there will go 2 stories.
Really?
Okay.
At least, yeah.
So you mentioned COVID. You could actually smell those through a mask.
Really?
So that's how we designed them.
Okay.
So it kind of
Yeah.
worked out.
Yeah.
So we didn't skimp on the scent at all. So
And that's where it gets back to like that Vibar is one of the main additives. That's the scent booster that Yankee Candle, Tuscany Candle, a lot of those companies add into their candles so they can skimp on one of the most important ingredients. Because it is one of the most expensive and most important ones, but it's really important for the senses and for the whole essence of a candle.
yeah, and all of ours are clean.
Yes.
Like I said, we cross-reference everything. All of our scents are clean. Our dyes, wax, the wicks, everything. We actually sent one of our candles up to over to U of M chemistry department to have it analyzed, because we were really kind of interested. And that's it. It's just the esters of palm. That's what was left in the bottom of the.
Yep.
I
the
think I
jar.
had emailed you guys about how for the Taste of Clarkston, we're doing, like we're setting up there with this Plinko board, and we have raffle baskets. And one of our raffle baskets is going to be podcast guest themed. So did you say we can have this candle?
Perfect.
Perfect, because we'll put
Yep.
it in our basket. It will be there, so if anybody wants to smell it,
Yeah.
stop on by.
And something else we want to do is do an actual like sampler basket for you guys too.
Oh, fantastic.
So we're gonna have
Awesome.
our melts. We're gonna have one of our new line, as Don alluded to, is gonna be a coconut wax based candle line.
Very nice.
So it kind of
With
touches
wood
on
wicks.
Yes, with
Oh.
wood wicks. So it touches on the
cool.
softer wax that is another avenue.
Yeah. Do you have this? Not always. I've heard you have to cut the wicks after it burns so long. Is that totally not true?
It is.
It
It
is
is,
true. Okay.
yeah.
What's the science behind this? What do we have to do?
It's so. Let me just say officially, yes. It is. It's even on our warning label on the bottom. Keep your wicks trimmed.
Okay.
I've never had to trim one of our wicks,
Okay.
so we'll just
All right.
leave it at that.
Got it.
But
Okay.
it's yes. And please don't burn them down to the bottom of the jar.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Because people are, they're like, oh, I love the candles so much, and they return them.
Yeah.
And we look at it, and it's like, so that metal tab that's on the bottom of your wick is where you're supposed to stop.
Yeah.
Shouldn't get down to that.
Because it overheats
Yeah, I
the
imagine.
glass, and that could lead to breakage, and
Got it.
and or an uncontrolled
Uncontrolled burn. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Everything has a flash
So-
point. It bursts eventually.
Yeah.
So we wanted something that you could light it, enjoy it, and not worry about it.
Yeah.
So they burn evenly, they burn cleanly.
Yeah.
You don't have to pull any of the little wick bits out of it.
There's so much that goes into candles
I
that I
know.
did not know.
There really is.
Did you
Yeah.
ever think like 10 years ago, like, I'm gonna know all this about candles? Like, could you ever imagine this is what you'd be doing?
And no.
That's pretty
And I
cool.
had,
That's very cool.
Not at all.
no, I
Yeah.
had messed with it a long time ago because I hated what was out there. Like Josh said, it's like you have this ocean breeze, and it's like, well, it doesn't smell like an ocean or a breeze, and when your eyes are done watering,
Right.
and it just smelled awful. So I wanted to do a natural essential oil candle. Well, I'm not a chemist, so unbeknownst to me that I didn't know essential oils in its pure form was flammable. So I put it into a candle.
Surprise.
To surprise, to try it. And then, put it on the back table, and back burner, and saying, because my idea was at the time, because they told you, hey, if you're selling your house, bake bread or something.
Right.
But people don't know how to bake bread anymore. Who does that? They go to Kroger and heat up one of the 99-cent baguettes or something.
Right.
So I wanted to have like a scented candle that had the realtor's information on it that they could set, on the counter or something. That's how my whole thing started. But that got put on the back burner, and so almost burned my house down. So no, I didn't think that we would be sitting here.
Yeah.
With a successful candle business.
Oh my gosh. Well, we are glad that you guys
Yeah.
did it. We're glad that you joined us.
I know, what a great
Yeah.
story you guys have.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That's very
Well,
cool.
thank
We
you.
hope to see you guys again at all the different places. But before we let you go, we always like to ask our guests if there's someone that they'd like to recommend to come on our next episode, someone from the community that you think has an interesting story like your own. Think about who you'd recommend.
What is the coffee roaster's names?
Shaded Bloom.
I think that might be it.
Shaded Bloom in Lake Orion, Knucklehead.
Knucklehead is another one. It's a
Okay.
couple they're just off of, I think, Airport Road in Waterford.
Okay.
So they're just next to our community, but yeah, they were coffee roasting, and they've got it down to a science themselves too.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
We love our local roaster. Let me just say, we love our local roasters.
Absolutely. Turn
Well,
into
I'd love
coffee
that.
snobs
Yeah.
and candle snobs.
That's a great one.
Right, because
I
we
like
use
it.
coffee grounds to clean your
Out
nose
of
yeah.
between.
right?
So we always have the ground coffee out
Okay.
sense.
Yeah, that does make
on our
sense.
table. So,
Fantastic.
any local roasters, just send it our way. We'll sample it.
They're called knuckleheads, is that what it's called?
Knucklehead
Knucklehead.
coffee is another
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, good. I love the fact that, well, one thing we definitely promote is small businesses collaborating and supporting each other. And
That is a
that's
connection
kinda-
that I did not see coming.
I did not
Makes
see
a
that
lot of
either.
sense.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Coffee and candles. Fantastic.
Well, we're kind of figuring out how I kind of threw around this idea of having, because a lot of them now are coming out with their own branded coffee mugs, and say, hey, we'll fill it with coffee scented wax,
Oh, that's a great
and
idea.
they'll keep your logo on it, and then when they're done burning the candle, they got your coffee mug too.
Yeah.
Yes,
So-
that's such a good idea.
and all we have to do is just our cost of filling it. That's it,
Yes.
because they already have the
that
mug.
is a
So
good idea.
And you can actually repurpose used coffee grounds to make a coffee scented candle. So
Oh, that's
there's other things.
There's
We're
a
always
lot.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of possibility
Yeah.
there for you.
Oh,
yeah,
man. Well, thank you again for
Yeah,
coming
Well,
and
thanks for having
talking
us.
to
It's
us, and
been
good
fun.
luck.
Yes.
Yeah, and good luck with all the other things you're doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know how you manage it all, but
yeah. I
we're
know
glad
he
you
starts
do.
up school here soon,
Yeah.
if not already.
Okay, you're in school as well.
So I decided to go back. So I am actually working on my MBA as
Okay.
well at Walsh. So
Gosh,
yes.
you guys are
Look at
busy.
you guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get your
We'll
dad
be-
going. Yeah.
Yeah, we're happy to test out your candles if
Yes.
you need
Perfect.
testers.
Yes.
We're
Absolutely.
willing and
Smellers.
yeah, testers. Well, thank you so much, you
Thank
guys.
you.
This podcast is brought to you by Independence Television, located inside Clarkston High School. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Independence Television, Independence Township, or Clarkston Community Schools.